G'day guys and welcome to Raging Rhino. Just a quick heads up, this isn't a video that I would normally make. This is something that I would normally react to on a live stream where the chat's there and actually just go through and react to it because it could go for quite a while. Now, this video might go for a long time, but I really feel like these Grift streams that Star Wars Theory is doing with Ryan Kennel and Mauler are actually making him look really, really stupid. Now, I don't think anybody would disagree with the fact that I feel like Ryan Kennel is one of the most knowledgeable people out there when it comes to Star Wars. He knows his shit, but not just knows his shit, he knows his shit. But when it comes to the writing, one of the biggest people out there that I like to listen to is Mauler. He really knows his shit when it comes to story, characters, things like that. And that's not to say that the other two guys on there don't necessarily know that. But I feel like the more we watch of these Grift streams, it's really showing how shallow and how disinterested Star Wars Theory is, especially in the fact of actually getting good entertainment. And look, I'm going to just say this. I've watched a couple of these streams, and there was something that he was mentioning on a previous stream where the other two guys obviously really don't like Dave Filoni, and that's very obvious. I don't like Dave Filoni either. I think he's a disloyal hack, and the Star Wars that he's making destroys lore, destroys canon, destroys not only their own lore and canon, but obviously George Lucas's lore and canon. And they bring up a lot of these points, but then Theory still says that he thinks that Dave Filoni is the right person. He has faith in Dave Filoni, but then also sits there and these guys make their arguments and he goes, yeah, I agree, but I still think he's the right person. How can you sit there and actually agree with these people shitting all over The Mandalorian, the Clone Wars, the Bad Batch, things like that stuff, the projects that Dave Filoni has been very, very involved with, sit there and say, I agree with you, but then also say, oh, but I still think that Dave and John, or especially Dave Filoni, is the right person for the job. I don't know. That's an oxymoron to me. But this is from the most recent Grift stream. And this was just something, I was listening to it in the car on my way home, and this was just something that came up, and I was sitting there like, what the fuck is he actually talking about? How does that equate in his head? So we're going to go through this. We're going to listen to approximately 10 minutes of this. While it's going, I might give a little bit of commentary. I might pause it a couple of times. So again, this might be a longer video than I probably would normally put out. But I really feel like Star Wars Theory with these Grift streams are making himself look really, really stupid. So let's get into this. Just to give you a bit of context to where we are in the stream. Of course, you can see here we're quite a way into it. They talked about the Bad Batch, and then they went off, and a lot of people started asking questions about Dune, and Ryan was commenting on that. And then Mauler says this, and then we get back into some of the Bad Batch stuff. So let's just take a listen from here.
Someone just said, what are you going to talk about Bad Batch episode 4? We already did.
We can talk more about it, though. What did you think about bringing a dog into a bar?
Now, just with that question that Ryan asked, like, it's pretty like, it's one of those, you could say, nitpick moments. But again, this is where they've talked a fair bit about it. And Ryan is obviously just trying to make conversation in regards to that scenario and what actually happened. Let's continue.
I mean, it is Star Wars.
I didn't.
But what does that mean, Theory? Oh, well, it is Star Wars. Like, have we seen dogs in bars and stuff like that before? Like, this is the thing. He makes such shallow comments when it comes to what these guys actually think about compared to how his brain works.
I don't know if that's like, is that normal or not? I don't know. For the...
I don't think so. Not really.
Though it is funny that when he wanted the dog to fuck off, right? Crosshair walks the dog outside and then leaves him.
Leaves him outside, I guess.
Had Crosshair stood with him, or Crosshair just moved in the room, like moved him to a different part of the room, then the rest of the episode didn't even happen.
Yeah.
so weird with like the writing choices sometimes.
I agree with that.
I
Yeah.
like how they just
Well-
fucking decided, hey, fuck this bribery shit. We can just, break in here and steal a fucking vehicle.
Well, you know how I approach these shows? How I approach, let's say, The Last Jedi is completely different than how I approach any animated show, especially Bad Batch. Looking at Bad Batch, it's like how you would treat a child. It's like,
What?
the sky is green. Haha. It's like, oh, yes, it is. Okay, yeah. Versus,
Why? It's made by adults.
because it's more for children.
Okay, but I don't treat like Wally that way.
That's a great point.
Why?
Because
Why?
It's fucking amazing. You
Exactly.
can treat it, it's better written, Wally, than most adult content.
Yeah, but that's
then when we get to,
that's
like,
Pixar.
actual-
Pixar, they're pretty perfect.
When we get to like triple,
But hang on, Pixar are pretty perfect. So does that mean that you treat it for adults, even though it is made for kids, but adults can still get great entertainment out of it because it's written really well? This is where it starts to really go off the rails for theory here. You can see Ryan sort of sitting there trying to contemplate what's he actually trying to get at here.
X, like actual adult content that's strictly meant for people who want to see like explicit shit. Most of that is terribly written, like the
Triple
storytelling.
X.
And
What are we watching?
my point is that the more you're implying that the less
Listen.
mature that it is, the less we have to care about writing quality, when it's not true at all.
I wouldn't say the less we have to care. I'd say the less my brain works.
But
I just
why?
let things go, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Why are you watching it then?
Yeah,
Because it's enjoyable. It's Star Wars.
but it's for kids, and you're not a kid.
No.
I mean, like it's to each their own, like what you enjoy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
all-
want to see what happens with the characters, and I don't really think too much about it.
But hang on, this is still within the lore and canon of Star Wars. This is still canon for Disney Star Wars. So it still connects and all of this kind of thing. It's still within the universe and still stories being told within the universe. It gets worse, trust me.
to me, all the best franchises, whatever they are, whether it comes from books or whether it's movies or animated stuff, all the ones that are, even if they're intended for a younger audience, whether that be, 10-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, the ones that kind of stand the test of time are able to encapsulate everybody, and they're adults as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
Even if it's not necessarily geared towards, well, you must
Like
be 21
Toy
years old to
Story.
understand or enjoy this.
Or
It's like
Shrek.
Story that everyone can engage with those characters, with those themes.
For
So-
sure.
Because it's intended for children doesn't mean that it has to not be a good story.
No, I
or,
don't.
you know.
I don't mean. Let me reword that. Not because it's just for children. I mean, like, Toy Story. I think is a really great film. It's one of the best. I think it was one of my favorite films. But it's like a lower budget Star Wars side project.
What are you talking about?
So?
Really has no. It doesn't matter if it takes place or doesn't, because the main characters are still doing their thing.
Well, it does matter because they're trying to use this to connect to the sequels. They're trying to explain away the disaster of the sequels using the Bad Batch. So it really, really, really matters, actually.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, the dog wants to come in the cantina. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. It's like, sure. I don't know. At this point, I don't think I have the same sort of rating system as I did when George owned it.
But why?
I really, really don't. So when I look at
You
stuff now, I'm
should-
just like, well,
You should hold everything that you watch to the same standards of anything else that you watch. If you see bad writing, you see bad writing. If you see bad continuity, if you see destruction to canon or destruction to lore, just because it's made for kids doesn't mean that you should just brush it off. Now, the dog in the bar is a very minor thing, but it's still a reasonable question to ask. Like, is that a normal thing to just walk into the bar with a child and have the dog come in with them? Or would you leave the pets and the animals outside? It's like if somebody was riding on some creature on Tatooine, would they just ride into the bar, or would they tie up the animal, and leave it outside? Now, I know that that's a little bit different from a dog, that kind of pet, and it's a lot bigger, but it's still the same sort of thing, right? And you should still hold it to the same standards as that was another thing in one of his previous Grift streams. He was talking about how I think it was Gladiator, and there was another movie that he was mentioning is like a 10 out of 10, but he wouldn't hold, any of the Disney Star Wars stuff to the same rating system as he would the Gladiator. Like, why wouldn't you? Why? Because there's worse people writing it. So that means that because there's worse people writing it and it's within the Disney canon, you still give it a higher rating, like a episode of Mandalorian, you give it an 8 or a 9 out of 10 because you're comparing it to other Disney Star Wars stuff, not compared to writing of Gladiator or something like that. That's stupid. That means that your rating system means nothing, and the rating system that you're giving to the audience actually means nothing because the audience doesn't know your differences in your rating system, do they?
You just let stuff go.
Part of the issue, if you're not willing to highlight where you think that there could be like flaws in the writing, is that it would have to, as a result, go the same way both ways. As in, anything good that Bad Batch does, do you appreciate it, or do you just go like, "Well, it's a kid's show, it doesn't matter"?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'd say I just go, "Yeah, wow, cool."
Bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. It does not go both ways. Like, it goes one way for Star Wars theory. If there's good stuff, he's like, yeah, this connects. This is really good. All of this kind of stuff. But then if it's bad and it doesn't, it's like, oh, who cares? It's just for kids. But he just said to Mauler that, yes, he would consider it the same way, which is a lie. It's bullshit. We've seen it in his reviews, in his reactions, in his watch parties. That is a bullshit answer. Again, making himself look stupid and petty and dumb.
So, like, the ending of Bad Batch is probably the best moment, and I haven't even seen seasons 1 and 2. The fact that they show an emotional, like, reaction to seeing each other, being reunited for being apart for 23 weeks, something like that. Yeah. I feel like they achieved that. It was relatively good, performance-wise, in terms of the voice actors and the animation. Like, I'm not going to say, nah, it doesn't matter because it's for kids.
No, but an emotional moment is an emotional moment, regardless.
Yeah, but they could have done it badly.
Correct.
How so?
So if they'd had like animations or facial reactions built in that don't match the emotion of the scene, and the actors being like, "Hello, how are you? Yay, it's nice to see you."
So he says that, like, yeah, it's a good, good emotional moment at the end of that last episode, the episode 4. Good emotional moment, but but if it was a bad depiction of that emotional moment, who cares? It's just for kids.
And that was it. I'd be criticizing it.
Well, now we're talking about performance. It's not like I'm saying I'm letting everything go. I'm saying the little things that, okay, like a dog coming into a bar. Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Well, so that what you mean by that then is just that you don't care about it, like as in like it's a nitpick.
Yeah, I'd say the nitpick stuff, unless it like really changes the overall feel of the
scene. But this
does. Or it really goes against canon and Star Wars. I'm like, whatever. It
changes the overall scene, not the canon.
But to me, the dog in a bar isn't like the main problem. It's just like that entire scene to me is like nonsensical.
Yeah.
Well, the idea that these guys, instead of just jacking a fucking spaceship and getting out of there,
which they end up doing anyway,
fuck out of there. Yeah. They're deciding to raise 30,000 credits,
and they get 45
to let them on a transport, and they're doing it by having Omega
gamble,
a fucking like 13-year-old or something, gamble. Like in the middle of this thing, drawing a ton of attention to themselves by stacking up credits on credits on credits is like a wild scene.
Yeah.
And
there's a kid gambling in a bar. I'm not gonna think about a dog in a bar.
Well, no, but okay, so this is why I
want
to point out
this is where, like, he realizes how much he's fucked up. This is how I perceive this. He realizes how much he's fucked up in what he said based on the way that Ryan and Mauler are now reacting to it, that he's now shifting the goalpost and trying to keep it just narrowly on the fact that Ryan asked, how do you feel about the dog in the bar? He gave this a blanket thing of saying that because it's for kids, I don't really care. Now, the thing that prompted that was the dog in the bar thing. But again, there's a lot of elaboration that goes on through this conversation, and Mauler really drives a lot of this. So let's continue.
Assume you think it's something that's like almost irrelevant / a nitpick, and I'd be like, oh, So why it's important, I thought this is why you're bringing it up, Brian, not for everything you just said, but that's on top, is that that dog being in that bar is what makes the entire third act happen.
Correct.
Yes.
So, like, it may come across, for example, right? People say, like, who fucking cares if there's a knife disappearing in the middle of the TLJ throne room fight?
Yep.
It's like, don't care. It's a tiny thing. It's like, well,
would
logistically, it's a
literally
tiny thing,
kill the
but
main character.
if it existed, yeah, she'd be dead, and then the entire story is annihilated if Rey dies. That's
Yeah.
the consequences are huge.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the significance of these things. Like, and I don't mind anybody saying, like, that doesn't sound like a big issue, and I'd be like, oh yeah, we can explain, like, consequently what happens if these things are behaving the way they should. That's why I said I'm not sure if dogs are supposed to be in bars or not in their culture or whatever, but like that's just one of the many different, like, cause and effect issues that happen in that moment, which doesn't have to be written that way, because we've talked about a couple already, but there's so many examples of not only TV shows but films that are meant specifically for children that when you're an adult you watch and you're like, shit man, this is really well put together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the last stream we had, I mentioned Incredibles. I loved that as a child,
Yeah.
and as a fucking adult, it's excellent.
Even better.
I would argue so, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But it's made for kids theory. So does that mean that they're allowed to do bad writing? They're allowed to actually make Incredibles bad because it's made for kids?
so like things with Andor, or major plot changing moments that like they fuck up on, like like what you mentioned in The Last Jedi with the Praetorian Guards. I think those are much more important to kind of focus on than I think with Andor. It's just with Bad Batch. It's just it's not a show that's really going to change the overall timeline.
Does that matter?
What do you mean though?
course
Hang
not.
on. He said that he reacted and said, oh shit, fuck, this is going to connect to the sequels, or this is connecting to the sequels. It's not going to affect the overall timeline. This show, you've said it yourself, you've seen it yourself, is going to connect to the sequel trilogy.
Ah, fuck, man. It's connecting into the sequels.
How's this not going to affect the overall timeline?
Overall timeline.
Does that matter?
Of course, it matters. Yeah, sure.
Why?
Because it's outside of everything.
Yeah, but my point is, like, why would that change whether or not it should be amazing?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it should all be amazing, but I mean, have you not kind of seen what's been going on with Star Wars and then accepted the fact that it's slim?
Well, there's a
pickings?
difference between what I expect and what I would push for. I think it ought to be good. I think all of this ought to be
And you
better.
should be able to
So that's why I think
criticize
these
that.
conversations should focus around is how could they have done better. A lot of people expect that I won't like these Bad Batch episodes, but I'm sitting here like, yeah, of course I won't, because it's going to be written by people who don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of stuff that we get with the storytelling is
For people that clearly don't give a fuck.
pieced together with basically nothing. Meanwhile, there's TV shows that I'm watching right now that are doing way better than this. We were just talking about like Shogun or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Those are different ones that are going to have a very specific interest in making everything follow along from everything else. Bad Batch might nail a couple of emotional moments. I think the speculation on the sacrifice of one of these members of the Bad Batch will probably do that fine, because it's pretty hard to fuck that up. But the thing is, John CJG from good old Arby and the Chief once said this. I can't remember which video it was, but that if you think of narrative payoffs as a big truck that's going to slam into like a wall, every episode beforehand is loading dynamite in. And every time you miss the opportunity to throw another stick in, the explosion's just going to be less by the time we get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the like Boromir's sacrifice in Lord of the Rings, I referenced that's probably one of the best ones I've seen in all of storytelling, and it's because of all the build-up. I think they fucking nail it, and then they nail the scene itself. And I just think that Bad Batch, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like it. I may very well not like Clone Wars, but I'm still happy to have the conversation about storytelling of how much better this could be. And I don't think that we should say like it's for kids, or that it doesn't have a significant impact on the overall timeline, or that it's small, or that it's filler. Anything that would sort of distract us from wanting to push for these artists to do better.
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, sure. In a perfect world, there's a lot of things that I would change, but I've kind of just sat back and accepted the fact that some of the projects are, because there's so many cooks in the kitchen, that some of the projects aren't going to be as good as the others. So like Mando 1, for example, isn't going to be comparable to really anything else, because I feel like that was probably one of the best Star Wars projects made. Tales of the
That's a joke. That to me is an absolute joke. Mando 1 actually does more destruction to lore and the creation of things like tracking fobs, hyperspace travel time, all of that sort of thing. That is very destructive. And the funny thing is that he talks poorly about Mando Season 3. It's made by the same people that made Mando Season 1. John and Dave, your saviors. Stupid argument.
Jedi, the Dooku episodes. I don't think there's going to be a single Star Wars project that's better than those three to date. That, for me, that includes Andor, it includes everything else, Bad Batch, whatever. When I look at Bad Batch, I see something that's just like a sort of extracurricular story that they're just making for kind of fun to
Oh my
complete
God.
George's sort of ideas of the Clone Wars and what happens inside of that and the characters within it.
That makes no fucking sense.
So that makes it okay to have shitty writing, shitty characters, shitty continuity, shitty canon. Because it's a hearsay project. It's just over there. It's just isolated by itself.
So when I look at it, I'm not so meticulous and so unbelievably
But you should be.
difficult like I am with the Skywalker saga.
You know what I think the reason for Bad Batch
Here we go.
existing is? To explain
Explain
away
the
the
sequels.
sequel trilogy and lead up to the sequel trilogy and explain Palpatine's cloning and shit.
I
That,
hope
that,
not.
that's what the purpose of Bad Batch.
Is he theory there? He goes, I hope not. Mate, in one of your fucking reactions to one of the episodes, the episode with Palpatine in it, you saw the connection. You said that this is connecting to the sequels. You said it.
Ah, fuck, man. It's connecting into the sequels.
And he sits there and says, oh, I hope not. Why do you hope not? This show doesn't matter. What if this show doesn't matter and it's made for kids and they're just doing it for fun, then why do you hope that it doesn't connect to the sequels? These two are making him look absolutely moronic, stupid as hell. This entire conversation and argument has made Star Wars Theory look like an idiot.
Batches.
I really hope not. I really
that's-
hope that they're doing something in between. So like the Project
Yes.
Necromancer thing is just Palpatine bringing himself back, and he does, and he's successful, and there's a young version of him, and then somehow it gets killed.
In the
And they
sequels,
lose
we've
the
seen
files
it.
to recreate it or whatever. It was like a 1 in a trillion chance.
Yeah, because I feel like ever since from the very first couple episodes of Bad Batch, when we find out how like important Omega is and she's special, like blah blah blah, it's all been setting up for this M count bullshit.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
and all leading up to this, which is
So
tied in with
he sits there.
Andoverse, M count, getting Grogu, like the cloning stuff. That
Yeah.
to me, it's all about leading up to the sequels. That's like that's why they greenlit Bad Batch to begin with.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
is why I
No,
mean,
I agree.
even though
He
you're
even
right,
says, I agree.
one, episode 4 of season 3 of something might not have these massive impacts on the overall like story of Star Wars, but
No.
it is all part of the story of Star Wars.
I'm not saying
And I also want to point out that the person creating the Bad Batch is Dave Filoni. The guy that he thinks is the right person to be there, and yet listen to the criticism that they're giving to this show. Oh, but it doesn't matter because it's for kids. Oh, but he also hopes that it doesn't connect to the sequels. It's like mental gymnastics going on in his head.
I think it shouldn't be perfect. I wish it was. I wish it was, but
So hang on. If it was perfect, would the kid argument be valid? If it was perfect, in a perfect world, if the Bad Batch was a perfect show, perfect Star Wars, does that mean it's no longer just for kids? It's now for adults as well? And you don't just go, nah, I don't really care. It's it's a kids show. Doesn't bother me.
if I were to sit here and kind of nitpick at literally every single thing that I think is wrong, I could do that. I could rip apart every single moment of every episode of everything. and or Tales of the Jedi, Bad Batch, but then I'm not having much fun anymore. And so I'd rather focus on the really big important things that are like lore breaking, that are character breaking, instead of being like, oh, well, there's a fucking dog in a bar. Ah, that's just stupid.
He's
That
back to
really
the dog in the
destroys
bar.
plot.
That's
Like, yeah, it does, but okay, whatever. I could always say like, oh, well, if this and this didn't happen, then the whole story would have changed, which is the point of my fan fictions, which is kind of how I started my channel. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. I've been doing that since I started my channel, but to do that with everything, I kind of have to pick and choose. Otherwise, it's just not fun anymore.
so he has to pick and choose, otherwise it's not fun anymore. So when things are done in these stories that are ridiculously stupid, but they can be brushed off because it doesn't directly maybe affect canon or affect the lore or something like that, he just chooses to ignore it because that would destroy his fun and his enjoyment of the show. Do you see how ridiculous that is?
So when I do that with something like Empire, I end up finding things that are really well put together ahead of time, like all meticulous decisions that are made in order to push to particular payoffs, but they have to justify everything. The further you roll it back, the further you're like, oh, they did that and that so that it would make this happen and push this to here and this to here.
Right.
Like, I see so much design in the original trilogy that it's impressive at times, right? Like giving Luke his prosthetic hand as early as Empire, and having that payoff in Return of the Jedi where he looks at it is fucking beautiful. And it's something that you have to set in line a while back before you can make use of it, or at least they did, is part of the point. And I'm just a person that derives a lot of fun out of seeing them meticulously craft like excellent storytelling and whatever it may be. I don't have fun when, say, for example, someone says like, "Oh, geez, we're stuck here. What are we gonna do now? We can't get out unless we have a gun." And then a gun falls out of the sky, and they're like, "Ah, there we go." I'd be like, "What the fuck?" And
I
if someone
fully
says like, "Well,
agree.
it's more fun for them to have a gun in this scene," I'd be like,
You don't agree
"Don't give
with
a shit.
that.
I'm not
I
having
fully
fun
agree.
now."
Because what if that gun falling out of the sky was in a kid's show? And it was just for kids? You don't fully agree, Theory. I'm sorry, but based on the argument that you've just had, you don't agree. Because there are those problems in the Bad Batch. There are those problems in things like The Mandalorian. There are those problems in Kenobi, Boba Fett, Ahsoka. And yet you still sat there and ignored those things because it would destroy your fun, your enjoyment. Instead of criticizing it, you decided to praise it.
I fully agree. But see, the way I kind of look at things is like, let's say you were boxing against someone of your size and age and skill level. And then you take someone who is, let's say a child. Let's say you're boxing a child. Let's say you're boxing your kid, if you have one, or if you ever have one. Would you not expect something different? Would you not tone your level of aggression down against the child?
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
So, would I do that against Toy Story?
No, because Toy Story is an amazing film.
But it's for kids. That was why Mauler just brought it up. Because it's for kids. And you just said, well, no, because Toy Story is an amazing story. Exactly. That's the point, man. That is the point. You should be striving for better writing and criticizing the bad writing, no matter what it is. And you should be holding those scores, the 0 to 10 scales that you always do, to the same level as everything else that you ever watch and ever talk about. Whether it's to do with Star Wars or Gladiator or Lord of the Rings or anything. Toy Story, Shrek, Wall-E.
But if
So do you
something
see
is
the core factor isn't what it's aimed at. The core factor is how fucking good it is in the first place, it looks like.
right, but if something is proving to you that it's really not up to par, then you can only expect a certain limit from it.
What are you talking about?
Yes, but you can...
Considering I've already got like moments I like and moments I don't, I already don't know exactly what I'm getting from this show. Like, I appreciate the final scene in this. I quite like the way that they
There's
frame...
moments you like in Bad Batch?
Yeah, I already said like their reunion I think was pretty good. I haven't even seen 2 seasons of it that would make that a lot more meaningful to me, but I think they nailed it. And I like the standoffish sort of nature with them and Crosshair, which again, I've not got all the context for why they don't like
Why are you
Crosshair
acting
/ they don't like each
surprised,
other or
Theory?
what their history is,
He's
but
said it
I've
multiple
understood
times.
it from the context of the scene, and I
He
think they
betrayed
presented
them.
it pretty well. Exactly. What my point is that I recognize what's being done well, and then I see how they run out an episode like this, which a lot of people could say like it doesn't fucking matter, dude. It's like episode 4 of a season that's really long in a spin-off show of a spin-off thing that nobody cares about. And I'd be like, I never stop caring about how good storytelling can be in all angles.
That's
and
the point.
Star Wars' health is it's everywhere, right? It's throughout all of its projects. If it were good everywhere, it would be a juggernaut.
It's not.
So that
No,
makes
it's
it
not even good
some-
in
see
any.
because it's not in Theory's eyes. That means it's okay to have shitty writing. It's okay to just let it be and brush off the things that you see that you don't like, or ignore even the nitpicks, because it will destroy your enjoyment, your fun. Okay.
Wait,
Some
really?
of it's on life support, and some of it's like average health. I'd say that's probably the best case. Well,
Well, like
Chelsea the
even-
Jedi, I think is probably top tier health, but
I've argued on other streams that if Andor had
Such
come
a
out
Dave
right
Filoni
after
simp.
Rogue One, like right after it, it would have been way better received. People would have
Probably.
given a shit.
probably, most likely, yeah.
But
Yeah,
if
but
it
I
comes
mean-
out around about now, if a great thing for Star Wars comes out now, it's like, yeah, it's in trouble because it has to earn back a hell of a lot of trust, which it
Well,
probably won't do.
all of that got destroyed with The Last Jedi. And
Well,
Kathleen
Last
saying that
Jedi Solo and Rise of Skywalker, there was a big old clusterfuck.
it destroyed everything. Rogue One coming out was, I would say, after that was peak Star Wars time, and before the Last Jedi trailer, or during the Last Jedi trailer, before the launch of Last Jedi, that was probably peak Star Wars excitement.
Yeah,
You could peel an egg and just write Star Wars on the egg, and it would people would watch. It was that.
I was hyped as fuck after that
Oh, it was
TLJ
so
trailer.
hyped. It was so hyped, dude. Yeah, I know. And then it just. That's why I wonder is there any way to bring it back to that? And I
need, like,
still think there
2 to
is
3 good movies in a row.
phenomenal ones. Not like good.
All right, I'm gonna maybe skip ahead here. They talk about how they would probably need a few really, really good projects to fire for Star Wars to actually be back. But I think there's another bit coming up that I just want to get to, and then we'll wrap this up because the video's already gone way too long anyway.
But we need a full reset to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna happen, dude. With the Rey movie.
No, apparently they need to learn their lesson further. They haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, they
So
just
I-
want to dig themselves deeper into the ground.
I can't wait for Rey movie, Mandalorian and Grogu movie, Taika Waititi's movie. What else are we gonna get? Are we getting one from Sean Levy too? Sean
The
Levy doing a Star
Acolyte.
Wars movie.
Fuck it, why
James
not?
Mangold will have Dawn of the Jedi. Man, we're gonna be fucking rolling, dude. 2029 comes around, Star Wars is back, baby. I'm positive, man. The Acolyte's coming out, dude. That's gonna be a banger. You kidding me?
Comes out in June too. Supposedly.
Yeah. June 5th. It's gonna go right up against House of the Dragon, which I cannot wait for.
Okay, they talk a little bit about House of the
That's what they
Dragon.
did for season 1. That's obviously meant for the Bad Batch at all. It's just that I would like a TV show that's
Oh,
fucking
God, no.
semi-entertaining to me.
Good luck with that. Yeah, well, no, hey, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think I'm just a little bit jaded at this point where I'm like, okay, you know what? The only thing keeping me from shitting on my favorite franchise every single day is the fact that I just look at it as if it's a little bit
Childish, stupid,
what's
ridiculous,
the word I'm looking for?
dumb,
Not great.
Filonied, not great.
I mean, a bit of introspection, clarification of why we're doing anything we're doing, why we keep up with it and stuff is totally normal. I imagine me and Ryan are asked that more than you are. More than most people are. Like, why are you even talking about Star Wars if you hate like everything that's coming out? It's like,
Anyway, there was another bit. I can't really find it right now. Let me.
that desire to be in that mode. Sometimes you'll like try and push us in a sense, like you'll push yourself to that mode, regardless.
Basically, all I've seen from a lot of these Star Grift streams has been Ryan and Mauler talking about how bad Star Wars is, actually narrowing down on some of the story threads, some of the character work, the character development, the lore-breaking stuff, the canon-breaking stuff, and theories just like, it's okay. I still have faith in Dave Filoni. Or in this case, it's okay. We don't necessarily need to worry about that because it's for kids. Dumb it down all you want because it's made for kids. It's not connecting, even though he's noticed himself that it's connecting or that it does matter. Not that it's connecting, but more so that it actually matters to the overall story of Star Wars. This really opened my eyes after seeing Mauler and Ryan talking to him about this specific thing. And in other streams, like I've said, in nearly every Star Grift stream that I've watched, and I haven't even watched all of this one, and I'm watching it, I'm not even watching it on Theory's channel, I'm watching it on RK Outpost Live or through Mauler's live channel as well. He's making himself look stupider. Ryan and Mauler make Star Wars Theory look stupid when it comes to Star Wars. Really stupid. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because it blows my mind how somebody who can have 3 million subscribers based on Star Wars can say some of the things that he's saying in some of these streams. And I really do feel like he's a little flustered with these guys because these guys don't have the hope or the faith that Theory actually has. These guys know Star Wars is dead. These guys know Star Wars is just another nail in the coffin after everything that comes out. Now, they might see certain things like Mauler was saying at the end of episode 4 of The Bad Batch with the reunion, and they did that really well and all of that kind of thing. There are moments there that are actually really, not really good, but just good, whatever, fine. But the majority of the stuff that's coming out, especially being made by Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, fucking whoever else there, is shit. These guys are shitting on it on his channel, and he doesn't know what to say because he just sits there in hope of these things. It was kind of like the first time that Star Wars Theory heard about the disappearing dagger in the throne room scene in The Last Jedi, or the guy that throws his spear away so he can be impaled by Kylo Ren in that same scene. The first time he saw that or knew anything about it was like 2 or 3 years after the fact on a stream that he was doing with Drunk 3PO and Jeremy, Geeks and Gamers. Because Drunk 3PO just happened to bring up Robot Head's video that he talks about those specific moments in that scene. And Theory's like, what? What are you talking about? He shows him, he's like, oh my God, I didn't even know. Mate, where have you been? Under a rock? I mean, he does talk about how he doesn't pay attention to anybody else on the internet, which is fine. You don't necessarily have to. But come on, these are massive criticisms that everybody in the Star Wars community were talking about. Who have you been following? Who have you been talking to? The shills? Interesting, isn't it? Anyway, that's pretty much it. I just saw that and I thought, I can't believe that this guy is willing to give Dave Filoni and the Lucasfilm writing group essentially a pass on even something like a dog going into a bar because it's made for kids. And because it's just this in-between project that really doesn't mean anything, despite the fact that he has seen that it actually does mean something. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Have you been watching these Star Grift streams? The only reason why I'm watching them is because of Ryan and Mauler. And I want them to get through to Theory, not to necessarily destroy his hope or anything like that, but come on, man, you've got to stop shilling for this stuff, and you've got to stop putting this stuff on a higher pedestal when you give it the ranking system that you give it, because you're comparing it to only the other Disney Star Wars garbage that they've come out with. Not actually giving your ranking system based on all forms of entertainment, writing, consistency, canon, lore, all that stuff. And that's what somebody like this really should be doing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Later, guys.
Shut your front door. No, dude. Oh, fuck. Okay. That was very nice, Bryce. Shit. Gonna be trending again. Oh god. I guess I cry for the guys with the green lightsabers. What can I say? It's the color green, I swear. Oh man. Damn. Whew, I got a lot to say. I got a lot to say.
That is so lame.